hope you had a great weekend. Welcome back to school. Today we are going to continue to review our adding and subtracting fractions. So last week you practiced adding and subtracting fractions with common denominators. Today we're going to be looking at uncommon denominators. So to get started, here are some warm-up problems with common denominators. Remember that all you need to do now is just add the numerators and keep your denominators the same. Please pause and do this now. Okay, you're back, so you must have these completed. Here are your answers. Please, if you are stuck or if you didn't understand a couple of these, raise your hand and let us know, because you do need to understand this to move on to today's work. Okay, so today we're going to talk about what if the denominators are not common. So our learning target is still I can add and subtract fractions, but we're just moving on to ones that do not have common denominators. So to start off, we have a problem here. It's 4/5 plus 1/2. Well, if you remember to the last lesson, we could just add this right onto it from before. But if you're looking at our pictures here, 4/5 plus 1/2, those don't really mesh together very nicely. So our steps over here are going to help us with this. First, we're going to check for common denominators. We do not have common denominators. We have a 5 and we have a 2. Those are not the same number. So we're going to have to do something about it. The easiest way to get common denominators is going to be to multiply by the opposite denominator. So what I mean by that is I'm going to take this denominator of 2 and multiply it over here to this fraction. And I'm going to take this denominator of 5, multiply it over here to this fraction. And we're going to end up with 2 equivalent fractions. So remember, this didn't work, so we're going to delete these, get these out of the way. And we're going to come up with 2 new equivalent fractions. Remember, as long as you do something to the top and you do it to the bottom of a fraction, it is still equivalent. So to this fraction, I'm going to multiply 5 times the top and 5 times the bottom. Okay? What that will do for us is it'll make our denominator become 10. And then we're going to take the top times 5. 1 times 5 is 5. So hopefully you understand that 1/2 is the same as 5/10. It's just another name for it. So we didn't really change 1/2 at all. We just gave it a new name. Next, if I take my 2 and I multiply it over here, as long as we do it to the top and we do it to the bottom, we'll still have an equivalent fraction. So 5 times 2 will give me that common denominator of 10. And 4 times 2 is 8. So 4/5 is the same as 8/10. It's just a new name. I'm still going to add like it asks me to here. Okay. So now for a visualization, what I've done basically is I have taken 4/5 and I've split it into 8/10. Now my math becomes really easy. I have 8/10 here. I'm going to go ahead and color in 1/10, 2/10. Okay, and then I'm going to have a whole nother circle over here to add my last 3/10. Remember, your circles do not have to be perfect, but they will help you to visualize. All right, so there's my tenths. So I had 8/10, and then I added 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10. Okay, so my answer, as you can see here, is I have 1 whole and I have 3 more tenths. Now, remembering what we learned from last week, okay, you can simply add or subtract the numerators only. So 8 plus 5 is 13, and keep our denominators the same, 10, 10, 10. Okay, but if we think about 13/10, we know that 10/10 is a whole, and there will be 3 more, so 1 and 3/10. I will accept either answer on this, okay? Let's do another one together. We have 7/8 minus 2/5. So now we're looking into subtraction. Well, down here I have 8/7 for you, or 7/8 for you, but there's really no way to take or to eat 2/5 of this pizza here. Okay, it's not split correctly. So once again, we're going to multiply by those opposite denominators. I'm going to bring my 5. I'm going to bring my 5 over to this side and my 8 over to this side because my denominators are not common. Okay, so 8 comes over here. We're going to multiply by 8 eighths so that we can still keep our fraction equivalent. We do it to the top and the bottom. And on this side, we're going to multiply by 5 fifths. If you're ever taking two denominators that are the exact same, like if I ever had 8 times 8 here, you forgot to switch them. So make sure you pay attention to that. This drawing, once again, is not going to work for us. We'll move it out of the way so that we can find out our new drawing. So 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 8 is 40. Here's my new fraction. 7 eighths has now turned into 35 fortieths. We're still going to subtract. And means 2 fifths is going to be changed now. So 2 times 8 is 16. And 8 times 5 is 40. Now we have those common denominators. Remember, like we said before, you can just add or subtract the numerators. 35 minus 16. Well, I know 35 minus 10 will be 25. And I know that 6 is 5 and 1, so 25 minus 5 would be 20. Minus 1 more would be 19. And we're going to, like step number 3 says, keep our denominators the same, 40. 19 fortieths. Oh, that's almost half, I think, if I think about 20 fortieths. Here's a visualization for you. We've got this pizza here, and it's cut into 35 fortieths. So I'll put it underneath it there. Okay? Somebody's going to come in, and they're going to eat minus 16 of those. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So all of this, keep it pretty even here, is going to be gone. Okay, eaten. All we have left is down here, and if we count those up, there's going to be 19. It's just one past half of the pizza left. So 19 fortieths is how many pieces are left. Okay, now we're going to get a little bit harder here, adding and subtracting mixed numbers. If you want to pause right now and complete the first side of your orange sheet, which is just doing the fraction part, and then come back for the adding and subtracting mixed numbers, you're welcome to do that. But if you just want to get the whole lesson done and then go do both the worksheets, that's fine as well. It's not going to be much more difficult here. It's going to be very similar. If you notice here, the only thing we're adding is this step number 4, add or subtract the whole numbers. Sometimes with subtraction that can get a little tricky if we have to borrow, but usually it does pretty well. So first of all, again, we are going to check for common denominators. We have a 2, we have a 10. Those are not common denominators. So what I kind of like to do is actually pretend like my 6 and my 4 aren't even there to start out with. We're just going to be focusing on the fractions of 7 tenths and 1/2. We're going to subtract those. Then we'll come back and we'll pay attention to our whole numbers. So we need to now multiply by opposite denominators, okay? So I'm going to do the same switcheroo. I'm going to bring my 2 over to this side and my 10 over to this side. Now it's kind of full up there, so I'm going to have to write it down here. So down here I'm going to bring my 2 over, so I'm going to have 2 halves times my 7 tenths. Still going to keep it with my minus. Remember, pretending like my whole numbers aren't there right now. We'll come back to those. And I'm going to bring my 10 to this side. So I'm going to have 1/2 still. But I'm going to find an equivalent fraction by multiplying it times 10 over 10. Okay, so 7 times 2 is 14. And 2 times 10 is 20. There's our new equivalent fraction for 7 tenths. Now I'm going to do it on this side. 1 times 10 is 10. And 2 times 10 is 20. All right, perfect. Look what we have. We have common denominators, 20ths. So now we can go ahead and just add or subtract the numerators. Well, it's telling me to subtract. 14 minus 10 is 4. And we're going to keep our denominator the same, 20ths. Okay. Last thing we need to do is number 4, add or subtract our whole numbers. So if we go back up here, remember this is a 6 minus a 4. So 6 minus 4, we all know to be 2. So since we didn't have to do any borrowing here, this one seems pretty easy. We can just now bring our 2 back down to our problem. And our final answer would be 2 wholes and 4/20. Okay? Now here is a picture to help you with that 14/20. Okay, if you want to check that out. And then if we got rid of 10 of these, we'd end up with just 4 of them left. Okay? For if you want a visual for the 6 minus the 4, we could definitely draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 whole pieces. So to look at this visually, we have 6 whole pizzas. Okay, 6 whole pizzas, and what we converted into 14/20. Then we came in and we ate 4 whole pizzas. So get rid of that 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we also got rid of 10/20. So that's going to be half of this pizza is going to be gone. Okay, so all we have left here is 1, 2, 3, 4/20, and 2 wholes, 1, 2. Okay, with adding, subtracting mixed numbers, it is really helpful to draw pictures, so please do that if you're stuck. Here's one more we can go over. So first of all, we're going to have 5 and 5/7 plus 3 and 1/6. First, we need to check, do we have common denominators? We have a 7 and we have a 6, so therefore we do not have common denominators. So to get common denominators, we'll need to multiply by the opposite denominators. So I'm going to take my 6 and I'm going to give it over here. I'm going to try to squeeze them in this time. And my 7, I'm going to pass over to this side. So I'm just switching my denominators. I'm going to squeeze them in here this time. So 6 is coming over here, so we're going to multiply the top and the bottom times 6. Remember, if you do it to the top, you have to do it to the bottom. So my new, I'm going to keep my whole number this time. There's 5. And then we have our new equivalent fraction is going to be 30. And 6 times 7 is 35. Oops, sorry. It's 42. Okay, and we are going to still be adding here. So we still have our whole number of 3, but we're going to be bringing our 7 to this side to make an equivalent fraction for 1/6. So 7 times 1 is 7, and 6 times 7 is 42. So perfect, we now have our common denominators, 42 and 42. Next step, add or subtract numerators only, keep the denominators the same. So let's look at that. We've got 30 plus 7, we know is 37. Keep our denominator the same, 42. And we have 5 plus 3 is 8. So adding, subtracting the whole numbers, 8 and 37/42. All right, so what I want you to do now is I want you to work on the orange worksheet. There's 2 different sides. One of them is focused on adding and subtracting with uncommon denominators, but just normal fractions. And one is focused on adding and subtracting mixed numbers that also do not have common denominators. When you get these finished, please make sure to have these checked before moving on to your next subject. Okay, guys, thanks a lot. Work hard.